Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. At the last episode, we ran over why customer service conversations are important when we're trying to get people to buy from us in the future. Not really trying to get them to buy from us in the future per se, but trying to discover what motivations they have for doing so and then working with that in the sales process. And so we're able to tease out that first of all, we have to confirm that they're satisfied with the product or the service. We want to be sure that they liked our wedding photography, that they thought our wedding planning was on point, and that they thought the wedding cake looked magnificent. And we also want to find out the main reason why they bought from us, because that is what is going to give us, that's what will signal our USP, our unique selling point, which should be a key part of our selling process. For instance, there are some cake artists amongst us who think that their USP is that they make the best tasting cakes in the world. But if you ask your brides and your grooms, you might find out that yes, your cakes taste really awesome, but the key thing for them was the really beautiful architecture that you do and the sugar masterpieces and all that. You might find out that your USP is that you create cakes that are a sight to behold, that you just put it up there next to the gazebo and everybody is thoroughly wowed. So if you ask enough past clients questions about these sorts of things, realize that perhaps you ought to tweak your sales messaging and your marketing messaging, and not just harp on the fact that you have the best tasting cakes in the world, but rather emphasize the absolute splendor of your sugar creations. So those are the things that you learn from asking questions like that. And then, of course, after that, that's when we now try to ask for online reviews, Google reviews or referrals or recommendations. And that is the role that customer service conversations play when we're done with the post-sale process. And now we're done. We're going to move on to another part of the post-sales process, and that's what people call the follow-ups, the follow-through, or what is called in the business-to-business context. So for our brothers and sisters who are in other industries, maybe in let's say hospitality, maybe you work in the PR department or sales department in Hilton Hotel, or maybe you sell insurance or whatever. People in those kinds of industries, in the business context, they call that the relationship nurturing process. So you guys have bought this kind of a relationship now. We need to nurture that relationship. We need to keep things going. We need to make sure that we're top of mind, so that whenever people think of whenever it springs to their head that, oh, okay, Kelechi is doing her baby naming, she remember that, oh, Kemi of ABC wedding planning was really on point, so maybe we should talk to her. Or Okechukwu of XYZ wedding photography was really handy, and so we should talk to him as well. So in the relationship nurturing process or the follow-up process, how do you go about this? Your actual cadence or your actual flow, your actual steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, is going to depend upon the industry and the context in question. So there is no one size fits all approach. So the way that our said friend who works in public relations or sales for Hilton Hotel, the way she's going to follow up with somebody might not necessarily be the same as the way that my cousin in Zenith Bank is going to follow up. And of course, it's not going to be the same for those of us in the wedding industry. Now, before we go into what those actual differences are, there's something that I want to mention, and that is this stage, the follow-up stage, the follow-through stage. It assumes that you have gotten the right and the relevant, appropriate contact details from the customer. So if you went through this whole process and you didn't get the bride's phone number, shame on you. There's some people who do that. Well, sometimes it's not your fault, because I've had that one wedding planner who, for some reason, was extremely gated. So I just got the vibe that I was not supposed to have contact with anyone before the day. I found it quite unorthodox, because I think the wedding photographer should have a certain level of interaction with the bride to make sure that everything flows smoothly. Because after all, if she doesn't loosen up and get comfortable with the photographer and the video crew before the day, we might not get nice, relaxed, candid footage. But anyway, I realized that this wedding planner, I mean, she was really gated about the whole thing. So I decided to just free it because I can flow either way. So on the day, made nice conversations, but I didn't try getting contact details or anything later on because I am extremely high touch. I keep in touch with most of my brides and grooms. I mean, if we flow, whether we flow well or not, I will keep in touch until it's obvious that I can't bring any value to their lives after the wedding, and likewise that there are no future prospect between us, and then I just let things fizzle out. So I'm extremely high touch, and so I just decided to let it go because even if I got their contact details, even if it was something as simple as saying, "Hey, happy wedding anniversary," if you got back to the wedding planner, especially with how gated she seemed, might lead to frosty relations between us. So I just let that go. So, outside of these sorts of situations where you're dealing with people who are very tense, gated, or abrasive around these issues, you actually should get the bride's phone number. You should get the groom's phone number, and maybe even Momsy and Popsy's phone number. It depends on how well you are able to flow with everybody on the day. Yoruba wedding planners, in particular, based in Lagos. I mean, I'm sure they feel me on this point because Yoruba wedding planners back in Lagos, they do this thing quite well. The whole Karosa, mommy, daddy, this, that. And before you know it, they know everybody in the whole family, and Yoruba wedding planners, they actually do quite a good job at that. And so, for those of us who don't seem to, who haven't learned this skill or who don't seem to have this skill in us, it's something that we can, excuse me, it's something that we can learn from watching our colleagues who seem to have this skill, they have this skill locked down. So for you Abuja folk who haven't traveled down to Lagos or Abeokuta and those parts, when you happen to go there and you're photographing weddings or you're taking your video or doing whatever, just pay attention. You see that the Yoruba wedding planners, particularly the women, they've got this thing about them where they're able to enter the family in quotes, and so they're done. Not just, I mean, they may have started off knowing only the bride, but by the time they're finished with this thing, they know the bride, they know the groom, they know the groom's father and mom, they know the bride's mom and maybe some aunties. They've gotten phone numbers, and anyway, that's just how they roll. So you need to make sure that you've gotten the appropriate, relevant, correct contact details, not just for the bride but also for the groom as well. Grooms are often ignored in this whole thing, but yeah, get their contact details as well, because they're going to be useful when it comes to follow-ups, follow-through, and what have you. The reason why you need to get all this information and as many contact points as possible is because you will find after the wedding that some people just have different modes about how they want to be kept in touch with. There are some brides who, there's some brides that are just Instagram people. If you call, they won't answer. If you send a WhatsApp, they're not going to respond. But if you send a DM at 7:31, they will respond at 7:32. So I don't know how that works, whether they're always on Instagram all the time, but there are just some people that are like that. Some people are Instagram only people, some people are WhatsApp only people, some people are phone call only people, and surprisingly, there are some people who are email only people. So when we're getting all these info from them, we need to get as many as possible so that after the wedding, our follow up can just flow naturally through whatever media, whatever means it is that they prefer. Okay, so now that we're done with that, okay, as I mentioned, that your cadence or flow depends upon the industry in question. Now, for some people, I'm assuming this is an assumption because I'm not in the construction industry, so I have no idea. But I'm assuming that when you're in the construction industry, that maybe it might be inappropriate to follow up on personal milestones. Well, this is where those of us in the wedding industry have a a one-up, an advantage, because since I took the wedding photographs, it is not odd for me to call the groom later on, maybe a year later, just to make small talk. Oh boy, how far now? How's it been? How's 2021? Should be business is picking up after this Corona thing. Man, this Corona really showed us shege. How far now? How far, madam? Shey don't happen. Stuff like that. Of course, by that I'm making hints to whether they have taken in or not, or whether they've dropped the baby. Depending on the relationship that you've built with the clients, it might not be. It's not inappropriate for a wedding photographer to do that, to say, Madam, Alpha, what about the children? How are they? And then he laughs, children care. We're just waiting on God. That kind of thing, and you guys just flow. It's not inappropriate, and so those are things that we can do. We wedding industry folks, we can reach out using personal milestones. So anniversaries. If you took the, sorry, excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. So if you took the wedding photos on December 28th, it's not going to be out of place for you to call, December 24th next year to say, 1 year coming up, oh, Alpha, sure you guys are doing good, blah, blah, blah. What else? The birth of the kids, you see on Instagram, because most couples put up on Instagram when the baby comes, so it's not out of place for you as photographer to call and say, congrats, so I saw the picture, twins, you're a sharp guy, blah, 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 and all that talk that follows. So reaching out on anniversaries, personal milestones, the birth of the children, sure, that is appropriate when it comes to wedding and event professionals. So, for those of you from other industries who happen to be listening to this podcast, I don't know what's appropriate for you guys. You might have to ask around with your colleagues and find out whether, for those of you in the banking space, for instance, whether it would be appropriate to have that kind of conversation to say, oh boy, Alpha now, how madam, blah, 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 and then enter personal stuff like, whether they've had kids or whatever. So, I don't know if that might be appropriate in the banking space. So, ask around. So, professional milestones as well. If you got all the details that you need from them, so let's say for instance you got them their LinkedIn details, and so they're on your LinkedIn as well, it's going to come up in the timeline. You're going to see that your groom Okechukwu from 3 years ago has now been promoted and he's now the Director General of NTA, or whatever. It would be appropriate to reach out to him, to give him a call and say, oh boy, how far? I see your profile is rising. Well done. More power to you. May God bless you and the family, blah, blah. Just hail him and, shoot the breeze, whatever. And same thing with Madame. You might find out, like I did in my own case, that Madame has just launched a business, and wouldn't be out of place to say, oh, congrats. So I saw that you guys have got this thing up and running. Well done. What inspired you to do it? Oh, okay, that's good. If you need any support, I'm here. Just let me know. I'll help out any way that I can. And these are ways that you can keep in touch. So professional milestones as well, changing career, whether they've set up a business or things like that. Then this one is also important. You can also build your milestones around your product or your service maintenance schedules. So this is something that people in the business to business context are very familiar with. So like for people who sell insurance, insurance is renewed on an annual basis. So yes, you guys may have closed the deal on January 1st, but then it wouldn't be out of place for a good insurance agent to reach out again in October to say, oh, guy, how far now? What's up? How you guys been? Sure, no problem. You're happy with the policy, Abby? So that means this December we're renewing, Abby? Okay, cool. Oh, these are the concerns you have? Okay, no, let me know the concerns now. Let's see how we can address it, blah, blah, blah. Start that conversation in October, so that by the time December rolls round, it's pretty much a formality that you're just going to August's house just to drop the form so that he will sign it, and that is that. So also can be the same thing for other people in the wedding industry. So around maintenance schedules. So like for me, typically I keep I send download links to the couples, and I leave the download links up for several years. Sometimes 3 or maybe 4 years, So if you have that kind of business practice like me, one of your reach out things later on, of course, you would have been doing all the personal stuff, in the interim, but you could also have one of those calls as well. And sometimes they do lead to future business. So like, oh, how far are you guys been? I'm doing some spring cleaning. I'm getting rid of old links right now. You guys still have all the photos. I say, oh no, we can't find them. Blah blah blah. Can we still get them? No, wahala, no problem. I'll bring a flash drive to your house. And then you get there, and sometimes you do happen to have that conversation, like I did, where it's like, oh, by the way, Momsy says she even wants an album self. I say, okay, no problem. So what would that entail? No, our life is this size and this size. If you guys want it to be like this, it's going to be X amount. If you want it like this, it'll be Y amount. If you want it like this, it's Z amount. And before you know it, you've got some future business out of that. So using your maintenance schedules, for those of us who have things like that, yeah, you can be part of the follow-up process as well. The videographer reaching out to say, hey, what's up? I hope the DVD is okay. The thing hasn't scratched, Abby. It's still playing. Okay, no wahala. Well, because if there were any issues, we could have rectified it sharp, sharp. But since everything is good, no problem. Just checking in on you guys. All right, bye bye. Next time. So stuff like that for those of you who have maintenance schedules. So I don't know how wedding planners will be able to apply this particular one, or if you want an MC. But the bottom line is, we can learn a lot about. A lot about follow up, follow through, nurturing relationships by looking at our brothers and sisters in other industries. So you can see how wedding photographers and videographers can use this whole thing about maintenance schedules as one of the ways of nurturing the relationship and being in touch. Now, if you have done a good job of using all these things that we've spoken about so far, personal milestones, wedding anniversary, professional milestones, they're setting up a business, maintenance schedules, and what have you, whatever you can come up with. Now, it wouldn't be out of place for you once in a while to say, hey, you know what? We've actually got this promo running. We're doing this. We're doing that. This is this. I just thought to let you know in case you're interested. When you happen to do that, it's not going to be out of place. Now, the reason why I want to stress this particular is because I have lots of other wedding industry professionals that I keep in touch with, and they're constantly sending out these totally random, out of the blue messages, advertising their promos, that this, that, and it's not the best way to go about it to keep on sending out these random blasts. Why don't you cultivate a relationship with these people? And that kind of gives you the right to reach out in a more meaningful way to say, we're doing this and this and this and that. So if you had been in touch with Kemi after the wedding, now that they have a baby and everything, if you are running this promo on, I don't know, maybe you're trying out chocolate fudge cakes or something and you're offering them at 20% off, it actually would not be a problem for you to reach out to Kemi and say that, oh, you have this promo running and everything, and so when it's baby Isaac's birthday in March, if she's interested, she should let you know, and you guys, and you whip her up a cake and stuff like that, instead of constantly sending out these broadcast messages. Because for some of us, like who are neither your previous customers or maybe even possible customers, it's just a nuisance continuing to receive these messages from you guys. I think you're better off just building purposeful relationships with your clients using some of these tips that we've discussed today and others that you will learn from people in other industries. And then when the time is right, you already have everybody's contact details, or you've sectioned them off into separate groups on WhatsApp or something like that. And you send out these messages, they're relevant, and then they're make them personalized if you can. But most importantly is that these messages are relevant, and they run the higher risk, as it is said in the gospel. You run the higher risk of falling on fruitful ground, and you might fall in some places and yield tenfold fruit in some places and twofold fruit in some places. But bottom line is, let's get up to speed with follow-up processes, not just using what I've said here, but learning from people in other industries as well, because there's money to be made when we follow these practices. And of course, I hope I've been able to convince you guys that you don't have to pressurize anybody into buying anything from you in the future. You don't have to keep all those perpetual blasts on WhatsApp. If you just keep in touch with them using the qualification frameworks, using these follow up frameworks, relationship nurturing frameworks, you'll be able to find out what their personal motivations are, in time, and you'll be able to align that with your sales process and make easier sales. So, thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.